Alrighty, so as we had discussed in the previous set of slides, we do get a draft constitution out of that convention in Philadelphia, summer of 1787. Then it is released to the public. The veil of secrecy is lifted, and it becomes a battle here between, on the one hand, the Federalists, basically those at the convention who stuck through the whole process. Some had left early because they were so disgusted by what was happening. But most of them stick around, vote in favor of it. They're some of the key Federalists here. And I would say, generally speaking, the Federalists were made up of the American elite. And then on the other side, right, you got the anti-Federalists arguing against ratification, arguing that what happened at that convention was wrong, oh so wrong, that the grant of authority from the Continental Congress was to amend the articles, not to get rid of them completely and start over. This is a misbegotten enterprise. It creates a far too powerful central government. And these were, not slackers in America at all, but not as elite, not as prestigious as the Federalists. So as I had just suggested, indeed, the Federalists are very happy about the fact that they've created at that convention a governing document that does create a much stronger national government. Because we know that under the Articles, the national government was quite weak. Nearly all the political action was at the state level. This really changes that in a fundamental way. States are still powerful under the Constitution, don't get me wrong, then and now. But the central government under the Constitution is much stronger than it had been under the Articles. So they seek to justify that. And on the flip side, you've got the anti-Federalists arguing quite the opposite, right? That the founders at that convention went too far. They created a far too powerful national government that would be arbitrary and coercive. We should continue to centralize power at the state and local level. We should not ratify this misbegotten document. We should go back to the drawing board and start over and stick maybe closer to the Articles of Confederation this time. Another critical issue in this debate between the Feds and the anti-Feds: do we need a Bill of Rights? Right, the original Constitution does not include a Bill of Rights that protects we the people. Because remember that declaration, right? We the people are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right? Okay, that's a good sentiment in the Declaration, but where is it in the Constitution? It's not there, right? It's not there. So that becomes an issue, right? Do we need such a document? The Federalists say no, we don't. Two problems with that. The states, the 13 states, each one of them already have a state Bill of Rights. That's fine. That's enough. That's what we need. And then additionally, and I think more persuasively, they argue, look, if we start to list particular rights and liberties that we, the people, possess against the government, that could become problematic, right? Because then the government could use that against we, the people, in the future by saying, the only rights and liberties you have are the ones specifically listed here. And if it's not specifically listed, you don't have it. Right? So it could be used against we the people to limit their rights and liberties. Psych. The anti-Feds call bullshit on all of that. They said, no, we do need a Bill of Rights. Because remember, the anti-Feds, right, were in favor of having power at the state level. They were skeptical of this stronger national government. So they said, that's exactly what we need. A Bill of Rights to limit the behavior of the national government that we find so threatening. Let's put boundaries on that national government and vindicate the fundamental rights and liberties of we the people. That's where they're most needed, protection from the national government. And then to address the Federalists' concerns about a Bill of Rights being used against we the people, they said we can deal with that, right? We should articulate those rights and liberties using broad language. And if we use broad language, that will mitigate that concern over, well, it's not specifically listed, you don't have it. We'll keep the language broad. Now, this debate between the feds and the anti-feds plays out in the nation's newspapers. And by the way, back then, people talk about a biased media today, and rightly so. The media back then was at least as biased as it is now. Back then, you had newspapers aligned with the Federalists, you had newspapers aligned with the anti-feds, and really nothing in between. Okay, intensely partisan newspapers. So, right, those newspapers that were supportive of the Federalist cause published a series of opinion pieces that sought to persuade we the people that this Constitution as drafted is the best we're going to do here. It's not perfect, but don't let the perfect be the enemy of the damned good. And this is a damned good governing document. And in it, the Federalists defend a strong national government, checks and balances, a bicameral legislative body, a federal judiciary that's unelected, on and on. Right? Notably, and here we see the American elite, these were papers authored by three individuals: Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. Alexander Hamilton wrote almost all of them. I think they were like around 60 or so, maybe 70, something like that. He authored almost all of them. Madison, he was a workaholic, bit of an intense dude. James Madison authored a handful, although the ones he authored were influential. And then John Jay, I think he authored maybe 2 or 3 that were not influential. He later became a Supreme Court justice, so don't cry for him. But he's definitely the lesser of the 3 there by quite a margin. Alexander Hamilton and James Madison are the primary authors of the so-called Federalist Papers, which at the time, again, right, were individual opinion pieces under anonymous names, under pen names. And they were later collected and called the Federalist Papers. Okay, spoiler alert, the Federalists do prevail. The 9 states that were needed for ratification of the 13, that comes in the year 1788. So remember, right, released to we the people in the fall of 87, ratified by 1788. So it happens pretty quickly. And it is New Hampshire that is that crucial 9th state. Eventually all 13 ratify it. I think Rhode Island held out the longest. Delaware was the first. I should also note from that last slide, there were anti-federalists who also published opinion pieces in anti-federalist newspapers. Those were collected later as the anti-federalist papers, but those are much less well known because they lost, right? And winners typically write history, and in this case, literally. There is an agreement here during this debate and ratification process. There is an agreement by the Federalists. Hey, you know what? We're going to win the war of ratification. We can see it coming. We got the upper hand here. But I tell you what, anti-feds, we think you might have a good point on a Bill of Rights. We acknowledge that. We do need a Bill of Rights. And it does need to be broadly worded. So as soon as we get this thing ratified, and the Constitution up and running, and the government up and running, and we have an elected Congress, an elected president, as soon as we're there, we're going to work on a Bill of Rights. We will totally get a Bill of Rights done, right? Kind of a handshake deal. And that's exactly what happens. By 1791, Congress drafts, I think, 12 amendments called the Bill of Rights. They send it to the states, and the states ratify 10 of the 12. Boom, the Bill of Rights. Something to note about that, and we'll come back to that a little bit later in the semester, or the course, the summer. The Bill of Rights was directed at limiting the power of the national government, not the state governments, and indeed it was broadly worded.